Mr. Parry, morning.
Good morning.
Thanks
Good
for
morning
joining
to
us.
you, Mr. Rushton Paray. Hope all is
Good morning.
well.
Good morning.
Like you break your silence to the Power Breakfast Show, boy. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, the best show on radio, I don't blame you
Good
at all.
morning. The Guardian newspaper is reporting this morning that you were not going to make any more statements. You stand down, I think is the quote. Is that accurate or is that not inaccurate? Is that inaccurate?
Well,
Sorry.
I'm worrying about stand down from what? You know, whatever the interpretation of what I was said yesterday, it absolutely has nothing to do with standing down. We're in the business of standing up. Every Friday, we go to Parliament and we stand up on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We stand up on matters of importance to the country. And last Friday, I stood up on the behest of a wide cross section of the membership to raise certain matters that they felt that the leadership of the party was not addressing. And we stood up and we made a call. And in that call, we asked that the internal election be held when it's constitutionally due. That very same evening, the political leader did make a statement that she agrees that the elections will be held when it's constitutionally due. Yesterday, Dr. Munilal raised the matter again, and he too confirmed that the matter will be dealt with when it's constitutionally due. All we want to push further right now is for the election date, the election for the internal election date to be held, to be announced. Because I would like to see the widest cross section of the membership participate. And that is what we're asking for. So this has nothing to do with standing down. I think there was a bit of misinterpretation, and I want to make it clear here today that I am not in the business of standing down, but we will continue to stand up for what we believe is right in the democracy of the party.
Very well said, Mr. Parry. When is the election constitutionally due, though?
It is due in and around between the 24th and the 27th of June. It's, as far as the Constitution goes, the current National Executive Team, their term expires 2 years after the calling of the last election. I think the last election was on and around the 24th of June 2022. So by then, after that, the positions become vacant.
And how long before the election is due are they required to announce it?
I think there is a provision for about a minimum of 35 days. What we're saying is that because of the importance of this election and that you want the widest participation, I think calling it early, letting the membership know, well, look, it is on this date, then you find preparations can be made to get participation from the widest audience, which is good for democracy in the party.
You meant announcing it early then?
That's right.
Calling it early.
That's right. Announce it early so
Right.
the preparations can be made.
Okay. All right. Understood.
We spoke to your colleague, Anita Haynes, earlier on, because some people are suggesting that your call was premature, but and I'm paraphrasing what Anita Haynes Allen said to us earlier in the week, that there had been a call seeking to start to deal with the general election before this. Would that be correct?
Well, what we understood, what was bantered about within the party hierarchy was that there should be no internal elections because of this upcoming general election, which is constitutionally due in August of 2025. And the Prime Minister has the power to extend that as well for an additional 90 days, which can take you straight until November of 2025. I don't think, and we held the view, many of us held the view, that that is not a sufficient cause to postpone a constitutionally due election in the party system. And that is the point that we held.
Are you surprised by the response to all of this? Because Dr. Munel was quite pointed yesterday.
Nothing in politics and in this life surprises me. We are prepared for those kind of things. I was explaining to someone yesterday evening that, don't confuse my decency as a political weakness. It is really a strength of my character. So I will not engage in mudslinging because, I mean, pelting mud is for a carnival juve ban, and I'm not in the business of that. So we will remain focused on the call for the election. I think it's important for the democracy of the party. And, Paul, the thing about working within the constitution of our party and allowing the systems to work, it will speak volumes to the type of government that we will lead when we win the elections in 2025. So it's important we do it the right way.
The way
But
I read it, Mr. Parry, and I think I would have said this, I'm not sure if I said it whilst you were on air, but I know I said it, is that I think, and for Dr. Munilal, it's not surprising because he had some choice words from Mrs. Prasad Bisesa before. So I don't see why he has a problem if people have a critique now. But it's almost like if they decided that for them to hold on to their office too on their spots, that they are going to support a weak leader. That's how I see her. I see her as a weak leader. You don't have to agree with me, but I see her as a weak leader. And it's almost like if it's a control mechanism. Rushton Paray we mightn't be able to control him, but we could certainly control Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. So let's keep her there. That's how I see it. You don't have to agree with me.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we are in the public space, we are in the public place. Every single citizen is entitled to how they see the play at the end of the day. What I can tell you is that my belief is that unless we make a stronger UNC, then we are not going to bring a stronger Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that is what we want. That is what all of us want. We are seeing some deficiencies in our system, in our party structure, in failed organs. And I believe if we strengthen those things, if we strengthen those mechanisms, we will build a stronger party to lift and hold government when we go into 2025.
Well, it's interesting
obviously,
when they made that
the
comment.
leader,
Just before you go, Richard, when they made that comment, do you think Mrs. Pasabi says is a weak leader? I'm seeing Larry Lada, Senior Counsel, making a statement. I don't know if he would be comfortable with me putting it up. But do you see Mrs. Pasabi says as a weak leader?
I think leadership in the party has been weak for some time. Whether it is anybody's fault, I mean, I will leave that up to persons who are looking from the outside. When you look at leadership in my organization as the head of my business, unfortunately, when you are in a leadership role, when things go well, you get the commendation, and when it go badly, you get the licks as well. But it is really the team. I work with
And that's a wonderfully
person.
politically correct answer. The question is very direct. Do you think Mrs. Pasabi says, as has been suggested by many, and some people have a completely different view to that, they think she's a strong leader? Do you think Mrs. Pasabi says is a weak leader?
I think leadership is weak in our party.
yeah. Mr. Parry, the issue of the territorialism of politics and protecting your space and protecting your power, of course, is, replete in human history. You could see it in all kinds of examples around the world today, from Russia, India, Turkey, all kinds of countries where that grasp, but you don't have to go far, Venezuela.
Yeah.
And I always wonder in terms of small spaces like Trinidad and Tobago, where obviously that fight for power and that striving for power and keeping off power is also evident. How do you navigate what can sometimes be the ugliness of politics? Because you reference the decency that you have. And there's an ugly side to politics. And how do you navigate that as your own sense of your own moral code and how you move ahead? Because even Basdeo Pandey said politics has a morality of its own. How do you see yourself fitting into all of that?
Well, I would respond by saying, whatever historically has been the past way of doing things, I don't think it has gotten us to the place we ought to be. And trying a different method. Listen, when you stand on the side of truth and honesty in dealing with matters, I don't think you can go wrong. And I'll tell you this, I think our young electorate, they have become fed up of the type of banter that we, and when I say we collectively in the political arena, has offered them over the years. And I would listen to young people in A-level students when I go to give talks on the economy, on digital transformation, and so on. And they will come to the side and say, well, MP, we've lost all hope and courage in politics and parliament, and they will give you this sense of hopelessness. And I believe, there is room for something else. I think we have destroyed the concept of new politics. I think that is a word that is hated now. But I think if we can have fundamental shifts in the way we do things, in the way how we communicate with the public, in the way how transparency, and I think that is what is really needed. If you notice how this government has operated over the years, everything is in secret. Taxpayers' money are being spent, but everything is in secret. So when you keep this secrecy about things, then general public starts to make comments on their own. Some may be ill-informed, but you are creating an environment of mistrust. And I think that is the things that, as we go forward, and you look at making systems more transparent, more open, allowing more voices to be heard, then I think we can have a shift in the way our politics can go. And I think that will be welcomed by our young electorate.
Mr. Paray,
how do you get to that shift? Because
Richard, just now, Mr. Paray, before Richard continues, I'm gonna have to disagree with you in terms of the secrecy of this government. No prime minister has ever exposed himself to the media and the public as this prime minister has done. He has answered every single question. He has made himself available to all media all through the years. So I will have to disagree with you that in terms of the secrecy of this government. We can have other issues, but not secrecy. All right? So go ahead, Richard.
But well, just now, let me just respond to that. I was not referring to the prime minister not being open to the public. I was referring to when you have people asking about the issue of the oil spill off Tobago. While the media, the international media, the local media is providing information for you every day, the government says, well, we don't know. We're not sure. We can't talk. When you are dealing with the issue of dragon gas, what is the arrangement? We don't know. We can't say. That is secret information. That is confidential. All I'm saying is that there are things that must remain under the covers, especially matters of national security. I agree with that fully. But
so it might be confidential as opposed to secret.
That's right? Correct. And that's correct. So those things at the end of the day is what I believe when information comes out in the public space. I mean, we have had the US media telling us what's happening in Caracas. And that is what is building mistrust in politics and politicians. And I believe there has to be some strengthening of those systems going forward in our politics.
No problem. Richard?
Yeah. Sorry. You talked about that whole kind of shift in terms of the politics. And I mean, yes, and you would like the politics to improve and be more progressive in terms of moving Trinidad and Tobago forward. But is it that the electorate, and when I say the electorate, the loyal electorate to the UNC and the loyal electorate to the PNM, are they really interested in any change?
I think we have to make them motivated and interested. And I want to hook on the anchor of being motivated. This call that I have made in terms of the internal elections to the party, it is all about getting our party members motivated, whether you agree or you disagree, or whether you like Paray or you like somebody else. It matters not. We have had low voter turnouts for many, many years. And I'm saying that the politics that we practice today, it is not motivating people to, one, have an interest on why it is important to them and have an interest in the outcome. When you have a big section, 400,000, 500,000 people who don't bother to vote, that is a serious issue because politics takes the garbage out of your home to the dump site. It cleans your toilets at the end of the day. And when you have 500,000 people who are not interested in having a view on that, it means that the system that we have is not working because we are not sufficiently motivating our electorate to have an interest and be interested in the outcome. And I think...
No, I agree with you with that disillusionment and that kind of apathy to the politics that everybody's out to, whatever people's opinions are. You can hear it on the ground if you go into any bar on any given day and you get politics, people with politics rinsing out your ear. Certainly I get it. Even though I try not to engage because I say I only engage on radio. That's it. I don't feel to talk politics right now. Let me drink my Heineken in peace. But but you do, and you hear people on the ground. You hear what they say, and there's so much disillusionment. But for that kind of change and transformative change, and motivating the electorate, are the political elites really interested in that? And I'm contextualizing it in, are they satisfied that the status quo is to their benefit, even if it's 50% or 62% voting in a general election, but it maintains the status quo that may shift back and forth between the two parties, but that's all right. Are they really interested in motivating the rest? I don't know if they are,
Well, I am interested, and I'll tell you why I'm interested. I am interested in seeing Trinidad and Tobago be a modern, digitized society. And I think the problem that we have is the lack of the dissemination of information. I think having a country where you have modernized system, easy access to services. I mean, when you go to do a license renewal, they've made some progress. I can tell you they've made some progress in terms of how it's done today. But 2 years ago, the process of getting a renewal physically took 5 minutes, but you have to wait 3 hours just to get the process done. All of these things is what creates the conversation that, systems don't work, the politicians, they don't care. It's about, self-interest. But I am of the view, and I mean, I'm a kind of what if guy sometimes. What if we were to change it? What if we were to create a different culture, a different language, and doing nothing is not an option? Doing nothing is not an option. And I do believe that we are a resilient country. We have a very highly educated population that I think if we can set, things on the right path, with the right language, right access to information, and allow people to speak, allow people to air their views on things, I think we could start that change. Is it going to happen overnight? No. It could be 2 or 3 cycles down the road.
There's some who suggest that the questions you raised may have consolidated Mrs. Pasabi's leadership position because of the response to the questions about the Natex election. What are your views on that? Because, I mean, she's had significant support for her leadership since your comments, with the entire opposition side bench pledging support and more than 12 House MPs, your colleagues, also pledging support for Mrs. Pasabi. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, at the end of the day, I have never raised any questions about Mrs. Pasabi herself. At the end of the day, there is a democratic process of doing things in the party. When we go to the polls, the membership will make that decision. And whether there is 12 voices or 15 voices or 100 voices, the membership has about 80,000 people registered to vote, and we must motivate them. And when they come out, they will make the final decision. That is not a call for Paray or Munilal or anybody. The membership of the party, which has the power to decide their leaders, I think that is where the real power lies. Not in the...
I know you have to leave us now at 5 minutes. There has been an accusation by Dr. Munilal that PNM financiers have been having conversations with certain people. Have you had conversations with PNM financiers or PNM officials at all?
I don't know what Dr. Munilal is talking about, but it reminds me of our old Western, fella in a bathtub, and you come to and you talk about 99 things, and Eli Wallach pull out the gun and shoot him. When you come to shoot.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you know who you have members of the laws, call their name. Call the PNM financiers. You see this foolishness? We've dealt with that. I was screened twice by the UNC. They agreed. The very same Natex, where they sit on, said it was foolishness. And for that to be dug up now and create this bacchanal in the party, it's really weak on their part, and it's very, very sad on their part that they are making these types of foolish accusations, which they themselves cleared me twice to run as a candidate for the UNC in Mayaro. So I dismiss that.
I think your problem, Mr. Paray, and I said it before, your problem is that you have cross support in Mayaro. You have even PNM people who say they like you. They may not vote for you, but they like you because of what you do. That's your biggest problem. That you have been accused of helping PNM people. And when I say PNM people, you know what kind of people I mean, eh? You have been accused of doing that, and that is your problem.
I work for every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I see God in every face, not in every race, and I will continue doing the best for all matters of man as long as I remain the MP. And I've been serving people before that. I mean, I've been in the Lions Club for 30 years. I've been serving people for 30 years in my business, out of my business, in the politics. So, I mean, I don't care, you know, who I serve. You know, the office, the emblem on my office have the coat of arms. So I serve everyone. So if anybody wants to say that there is a sinister reason for serving one person versus the other, well, so be it. But I will continue to serve every single citizen of this country when they come before me.
God bless you, Mr. Paray.